If I may, this is the anniversary of 9/11. 13 years ago, on this date, our country was attacked by radical Islamists who do not want your car, they don't want your bank account, they don't want your television. They're not criminals. They want to destroy your way of life. And the sooner we come to grips with the fact that there are people like this still out there, the better off we'll be. And it's hard for the average American to understand why people think this way. I can't explain it. I've been to the Mideast more times than I can count, and I promise you there are plenty of devout Muslims who worship according to the Muslim faith, the Islamic faith, that would have plenty of places for me and you to reside in this world without fear. There are plenty of people, the vast majority of people of that faith, we could live in peace with. But there's a strain called radical Islam that would kill every moderate Muslim, kill every Christian, destroy the state of Israel, and would kill as many of us as they could if somebody doesn't stop them. So 13 years ago, we had close to 3,000 Americans killed in the attacks on our country by the bin Laden group. The only reason it was close to 3,000 and not 3 million is because they couldn't get the weapons to kill 3 million of us. If they could, they would. So what do? We got to keep them away from those weapons. We got to keep the war over there so it doesn't come back here. And we need allies. I'm here to tell you, contrary to what I hear in my own party, most people in Syria have two things in common. They don't like Assad, and they sure don't like ISIL. And if you don't believe that about Syria, you really don't know much about Syria. This whole enterprise in Syria started when people demanded to be free from the dictator. And our lack of attention and not responding to the needs of those Syrians who would have defeated Assad and lived in peace with us has cost us greatly. 3 years ago, Senator McCain said it is in our national security interest to side with the Free Syrian Army to get Assad out because he's the guy that helped kill Americans during the Iraq War. He's the guy that's cozy with Iran. Well, they had him on the ropes. The Free Syrian Army was about to beat Assad. Then in came 3,000 to 5,000 Hezbollah fighters, Iranian-inspired militia from Lebanon, and the Russians doubled down, and we withdrew our support, and the army eventually collapsed. That happened simultaneously with our decision by President Obama's decision to withdraw all of our troops from Iraq. We disengaged from Iraq, we had no presence there, and the rest is history. About the speech last night, what bothered me the most is the way it started. The president tried to tell us, as a nation, we're safer today than we've ever been. Do you believe that? I don't. There are more terrorist organizations with more money, more capability, more weapons to attack our homeland than existed before 9/11. We are not safer than we were before 9/11, and that's just an unfortunate fact. The president also said that this operation against ISIL will be like other CT, counterterrorism operations over the last 5 or 6 years. No, it will not. This is not a small group of people running around with AK-47s. This is a full-blown army. They were going to defeat the Kurdish Peshmerga, a pretty tough fighting group if we hadn't intervened. To underestimate how hard this will be will bite us. Mr. President, please be honest with the American people about what we face. Somebody's got to beat this army. This is not a small group of terrorists. They have howitzers, they have tanks, they are flush with money, they're getting fighters from all over the world, but they can and will be defeated, and they must be defeated. Now, as to the family members who remember this as the day that your life was turned upside down, you will always be in my thought and prayers like everybody else in the country. This is a day where most of us remember with sadness, and it's a hurtful day, but if it was one of your family members who lost their life this day, it's the day that your life turned upside down. But there are 4 other Americans that died on September the 11th that I don't want to forget. Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, Ty Woods, Glenn Daughtry. They died 2 years ago in Benghazi. I'm not going to forget them or their families, and we're going to get to the bottom of what happened in Benghazi. That's my commitment to you. Now, how do we move forward? Mr. President, if you need my blessing to destroy ISIL, you have it. If you need to follow them to the gates of hell, I will send you a note. Go for it. If you need Congress to authorize your actions, let me know. You say you don't, I agree with you. But if it makes us stronger for this body to vote in support of your plan to destroy ISIL, I will give you my vote. But here's what I expect in return: your full commitment to win. I'm tired of half measures. I'm tired of misleading the American people about what we face. There is no way in hell we're going to beat these guys without an American ground component in Iraq and Syria. There is not a force in the Mideast that can take these guys on and win without substantial American help. You don't need the 82nd Airborne, but we're going to need thousands of troops over time on the ground holding the hands of the Arab armies that are going to do the fighting, along with the Syrians, to make sure we win. And the one thing I can promise the American people, if we take ISIL on and lose, we will unlock the gates of hell, and hell will come our way. This is the last best chance to get this right, Mr. President. You've made plenty of mistakes, so have I, so have Senator McCain, and Senator McCain, nobody's going to apologize to you. I think they should, but they're not. Now, I'm not looking for anybody to apologize. We've all made mistakes. This is a time to do some soul searching as a nation. Me and you can do some soul searching. Those who have not seen the threat for what it is, all I ask of you is be willing to embrace reality. All I'm asking of President Obama is to do what President Bush did. Change your tactics and your strategy, because it's not working. Senator McCain and myself went to the White House during the Bush years, and we told President Bush, "This not a few dead enders, Mr. President. It is not working in Iraq. You don't have enough troops. And if we don't change course, you're going to lose the country." To his credit, he went from training and advising the Iraqi army to a full-blown counterinsurgency strategy, taking the fight to the enemy, the surge led by David Petraeus, and it did work. That was an admission by President Bush that he'd gotten it wrong and he had to change course. Every president, every senator makes mistakes. History judges you not by the mistakes you make, but by what you learn from them. And here's what I ask of the president: quit caveating everything. Look the enemy in the eye and say, "We will destroy you," and stop. Look the American people in the eye and say, "We have to win, we will win, and I will do what's necessary to win." Come to the Congress and say, "We're in this together." The American military, they're tired, but they're not too tired to defend this country. If you had a bunch of them in front of you and you asked them the following: would you go to Iraq and Syria to fight ISIL? They would say, "Send me tomorrow," because they know what these people will do to the rest of us. Why do they serve over and over again? Why do they go to Iraq 3 and 4 times? Afghanistan 3 and 4 times. They've seen the enemy up close. They know what comes our way if we lose. So this is a day to reflect as a nation. I am so sorry that 13 years after 9/11, we're having to deal with greater threats than before 9/11. 50 years from now, long after I'm gone, there's going to be an American soldier somewhere in Africa or the Mideast helping indigenous populations fight radical Islam. But over time, just as sure as I'm standing here, radical Islam falls. Because here's the truth. What they are selling, most people don't want to buy. They don't have the capacity yet by themselves to stand up and stare these people down. As to Americans who are frustrated with the pace of democracy in the Mideast and who believe those people can't do this, All I ask you is to pick up an American history book. Within the first 100 years of our country, we're at war with Canada and Mexico. Within the first 100 years of our country, we're at war with ourselves. And it started in my state. This is not easy. It is not easy to this day to expect people who have lived under brutal dictatorships, had their society divided and destroyed for decades, to get to where we are in 12 or 13 years is unrealistic. And here's the hope for me. There is good news. There's plenty of will throughout the world to stand up to radical Islam. Our goal is to provide capacity to that will. Sometimes it will be American soldiers. Sometimes it will be clean drinking water, a small health care clinic that you wouldn't send your child to for 5 minutes that will save lives in Africa, a small schoolhouse where a young girl can get an education. If we're not willing to do these things over there, they will come here.
I wonder if, for the record, the senator from South Carolina would relate the experience that we had in Iraq and our personal experience with the issue of residual force behind.
I remember getting a phone call from then Secretary Clinton asking me and you and I think Senator Lieberman to go to Iraq and see if we could intervene and help the Iraqis make a decision about a residual force because we thought it was in our interest. President Obama has always looked at this issue as fulfilling a campaign promise. He got the answer he wanted, which was zero. The military told him we need some people, but he really was intent on ending the war in Iraq. Here's the problem. Without a residual force, we've lost everything we fought for. When we met with Barzani, Alawi, and Maliki, I was convinced they were willing to accept an American follow-on force. We just had to put it on the table in a way that would matter. When we're talking to Prime Minister Maliki, he said, well, Senator Graham, how many troops are you talking about? I turned to General Austin and our then Ambassador Jeffries and says, well, how many? He says, we're still working on that. We went from 18,000 recommended by General Austin. The last time I got a number from the White House, it was below 3,000. This cascading downward from 18 to below 3 was not because the Iraqis said that's too many. It's the White House couldn't pick a number because they didn't want to stay. It's about as accurate to say that the Iraqis didn't want us to stay as it is to say the president never called ISIS the JV team. He did. He's trying to rewrite that statement because it looks pretty naive. Look forward. Let's beat on the Republicans for a minute here. The Republican Party, the party of Ronald Reagan, embraced sequestration. And to those who don't know what I'm talking about, it is a budget proposal that will gut our military over the next decade. To have the smallest army since 1940, the smallest Navy since 1915, the smallest Air Force in modern history. Republicans embrace that concept. If you want to defeat ISIL, you better change sequestration because we're about to gut the military at the time we need it most. There's plenty of blame to go around here. Here's the key for me. We as a nation have one last chance to get this right. I will make the same offer to President Obama that I made to President Bush. If you come up with a strategy that makes sense and you're understanding and learning from your mistakes as I try to learn from mine, I will be there with you. There was not much help coming from our friends on the other side when Iraq went bad. Bush got absolutely no support when his mistakes came back to haunt him. I will not make that mistake. The mistakes that President Obama made are real, and they have to be corrected. If you will correct them, I will stand with you. No matter what the polls show about troops on the ground, and I know how you stand with South Carolinians, not very well, but it's not about you, it's not about me, it's about us. So on this September the 11th anniversary, I make an offer to my Commander-in-Chief, Barack Obama. If you will destroy ISIL and mean it, you will have an ally in Senator McCain and Senator Graham.